We are out in Primm Springs, Tennessee this morning at Iris City Gardens with my good friend and neighbor, Greg McCullough.
Andy, good to see you.
Good to see you. It is late September, a beautiful, beautiful fall day. Iris is an incredibly wonderful flowering plant. Everybody has them, but there are different groups and there are different ways to care for them. And as I understand it, Greg, fall is really a critical time to do the right thing.
The bed we're in right now is a bearded iris bed. The bearded iris, it's got a little beard on it on the falls. Okay. This bed is a reblooming bed, so we get an early season bloom, generally early May, and then the majority of the rebloom comes in October, November. But you can see this one just opened today, and we have a few that are open.
So, Greg, do I understand correctly that after these bloom in the spring and the early summer and the flowers are spent, that would be a good time to deadhead or cut off the flowering stalks?
We do cut the stalks down on all of them. As soon as they do that first bloom, we cut the stalk off because that lets the plant put all its energy into building up the next bloom. And for rebloomers, that'll be fall. For the non-rebloomers, that'll be the next year.
Do you do anything with the foliage in the summer, or is that all done in the fall?
No, all the foliage is done in the fall. You don't want to cut that back because you want to leave it as long as you can, because that builds the bloom for next year. But once we cut the foliage, we clean up all of the dead material around the plant, because there's a moth that will come along and lay eggs in this dead material, and the worms that hatch out drill down through the foliage into the rhizome and will kill the plant. And it's a fairly common problem in the South. It's called an iris borer, so it's fairly common, you know, everywhere in the South. So that's just good maintenance. It keeps the pests and the disease as much as possible out of your foliage. So we don't cut that foliage back until generally late fall, or maybe even after the first frost.
I'm just always used to mulching my flower beds and trees and shrubs, but it sounds like mulching is not a good idea for iris beds.
Bearded iris want to be bone dry. They don't want mulch, and they want to be planted right on top of the soil. The rhizome, the root, wants to be right on top of the soil. So mulch on top of those plants will encourage bacterial soft rot in irises, which is another southern problem. Okay. So no, you can see this bed is just bare dirt, and that's the way they want to grow, and they want to be as dry as possible and very little fertilizer.
So as a general rule of thumb for the bearded iris, high and dry. They want to be high and dry, remember. Yes. I can remember that. Okay. You say we should dig iris in the summertime, right after the bloom.
In July and August is the best time to move bearded irises. That's when, in that heat, that's when they're closest to dormancy.
Okay. And that's when you would dig them and divide them to share with friends and move around your garden. Okay. This is a bed of beardless iris, also known as Siberian.
Correct.
Iris here. And what is the difference in care or similarities in care between this and the bearded iris?
Well, just during the year, Siberian iris want to be moist. Fall care for these, we trim the foliage back severely. These will go completely dormant, so they'll die all the way to the ground. So we trim them back severely. Then we mulch this bed. Where bearded don't want mulch, the beardless Siberians really like the mulch. So we'll put an inch or two of mulch on this bed every year in the fall, late fall. These bloom generally about a week after bearded irises, so you extend your season a little bit. And but these also want fertilizer, where bearded don't. These like high nitrogen fertilizer. They're exactly opposite care for bearded as far as water and fertilizer and mulch.
I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. The bearded iris like it high and dry and lean, and the beardless iris, of which this is a bed, an example of the Siberian iris, like moist soil. So you mulch, which helps retain the moisture and keep the weeds down. And they also like richer nutrient soil, so you fertilize twice per year. Is that correct?
Very good. Again, you want to leave the green as long as you can because that builds your bloom up for the next year. These look good even after frost kills them. They turn a rich reddish brown, and so the foliage is attractive even after they've been frosted. But generally, we try to cut them right after the first frost.
Right after the first frost.
Yeah.
And as far as fertilizing, would you fertilize in the fall or in the spring?
Early spring and after bloom. So we usually give them 2 feedings, like early, mid-March maybe, to get them going for the bloom that year, because they'll bloom like the second week of May.
And do you use a slow release fertilizer or a fast acting?
Fast acting.
So just a 10-10-10?
Triple 15 usually.
Triple 15, okay.
Yeah.
Greg, we're here in another bed of beardless iris. This is Louisiana iris. And as I understand it, the Louisiana like moist soil and high nutrient. Is there any other difference that the Louisiana iris group would like as far as maintenance and care?
Not really. They'll take exactly the same conditions that Siberian iris will. So they want mulch, they want fertilizer, they want moisture. But Louisiana iris will grow in water. They'll grow in a regular garden soil, but they will grow in standing water. So if you have a backyard pond, you can sink these down in water, and that's really where they're happiest, is in standing water.
Okay, so for water gardeners, Louisiana is the way to go.
Yes.
Okay, and as far as longevity and how long these last, if folks are planting iris in their gardens, how long can they expect them to keep going and reblooming? Are they short-lived or long-lived?
Well, essentially, if you take good care of them, they'll last forever. They reproduce every year, they multiply, and the multiplication, the one that multiplies, is an exact genetic duplicate of the original, so they will be around forever.
Wonderful. So it sounds like a good garden investment.
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you, Greg, for your time.
Thanks, Andy. Good to see you.
All right.